Hello, spicy friends. So, we are back for another episode, finally, of A Quart of Smut and Spice. And tonight, we are going to be doing the review of Runyx, The Predator. So, I first heard of this book on Instagram, or Bookstagram, I guess is the proper term. Bookstagram on Instagram. But I first heard about this on Bookstagram and Instagram. But the first thing that made me want to read it was a reel that somebody put together and pinned on Pinterest. It was absolutely incredible, and it's an excerpt that is not in this book. It is available only if you subscribe to Runyx's newsletter, so it's an exclusive little thing. But the bike riding, the rain, the whole thing, just perfect. Absolutely perfect. I loved every bit of it. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, of course, book, must have. So this has been on my TBR for a while. I kind of really burned through this very quickly. So first, I want to start off giving you guys kind of a rough idea of my opinions and thoughts on the book, and then we'll dive into some of the more deeper aspects of this book, because this is one of 6. Now, book 6 was due to be released in 2023, but it has yet to come out, so I'm guessing it's probably going to be either this year or next year, because it's still in her site as not being released, so who knows? Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. I will say this, love the cover art. Just about every cover that this author has done has had like really evocative, really colorful, really like that cover grabs you. Like it's something you see on a shelf and just like. But I got my copy through Amazon, of course, because Amazon practically runs the world now. Not bitter at all. But so my thoughts on this book, I rated it a 5-star, and I'm going to explain why. Because technically, I should, grading the book as a whole, I would grade it as a 3.5. But the ending part of this, and as you can tell, I did down at the bottom, spoilers will be included in this. So if you have not read this book, run, because I will be spoiling it. You've been warned. So, so 3.5 for the whole of the book, and that's being generous. But I rated a 5, and I'll tell you why. The ending part of this book was such a twist that I didn't fucking see coming that it totally changed my perspective on the whole book. So one thing I will say, and I will caution any reader, if you start reading The Predator, or pretty much any of her books, I would say, because it seems to be her writing style, not just a one-off. So what you're going to get is a lot of world building. You're going to get a lot of information. And then at the very end, you're going to get it pulled all together very rapidly. So that's kind of what you're looking at with this writer. She kind of loves to give you just enough, just enough to kind of get you thinking about what could be what. But it was enough. It was enough to make me grade it a 5, because it was that good. It really was. Oh, sorry, I had to pop my neck. But yeah, this thing, and I have a contentious relationship. So the book is about basically it's kind of from the perspective of Morana Vitalio. I do not know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I was being generous and calling her Moriana, but apparently it may just be Morana, which is not very kind to name your character Morana, but okay, to each their own. So it's based off of the point of view of Morana. I'm going to call her Moriana. I hate that name. Moriana. And she is the daughter of one of the big bosses in a crime syndicate mafia type situation. So her dad's name is Gabriel Vitalio. He is known throughout the criminal underworld as the Viper. And their rival crew is the Tenebra outfit, which I will. JS, yay! I'm starting to talk about the stuffs in the books because this thing is, you know how like this thing kind of drove me absolutely crazy. Like, don't get me wrong, it changed my mind towards the end, but just wanted to throttle the freaking thing. So the Tenebra outfit, which I thought was kind of a cool name because it's based, I don't know if it's based off of, but I'd be willing to bet that this author is a Star Wars fan because there's an EU character named Tenebra, aka Valkorion, aka the Eternal Sith Emperor. So there's your little Star Wars. How are you tonight, my darling? I could not type. There we go. I love you, JL. I still can't do the hand heart thing. Everybody keeps trying to get me to do the hard hands, but it always ends up like a rutabaga. That's the best I can do. I love you. But so the Tenebra outfit and the Shadow Port is the Vitalios. Yes, Tristan Caine, one of my obsessions. Yes, Tristan Caine. And I'm glad you said that because dear sweet baby Yoda, let's just knock that out and then we'll get into the details of the book. One of the things that drove me absolutely batshit about this book that I complained about a lot was the repetition of this man's name, Tristan Caine. That's why I kind of mocked it with his name is Tristan Caine, because nobody ever just called him Tristan. Nobody, not a single fucking character in this book ever called him just Tristan. It's Tristan Caine, all of it. Tristan Caine. It's like, can we please just go by our first names, please? Everybody else went by a first name, but this guy got the double name treatment. And it became so irritating because whenever you have something like that happen to a character where it's repetition of like their full name, and it's not necessary when you have like people who are just having normal like morning coffee conversation. Why do you need to use his full name? Obviously, you know him. Obviously, there's some sort of relationship because you're in his fucking house. So just talk normal. No person I know sits down with their friend over a cup of coffee and uses their entire name in conversation every time they want to talk to their friend. Just saying. It's weird. Very annoying. One of the other things that was annoying about this book that was also repetitious was yes, I did. I went on the Pinterest hunt to find a book because of the reel. Oh, the reel was so beautiful. Like, it was perfectly done. The music was good. I found the guy from the reel, the actual motorcyclist, and that was wild. I caught him whenever I started following all the biker boys on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey, is this you?" And he's like, "Yeah, that is me. I didn't give them permission to do that, but that's kind of cool." I was like, "Okay, can I use that clip?" Go ahead. Very nice guy. But there's so much repetition in this book. And I understand that it's a debut novel, very first one. And I understand that tension and anxiety and the willingness and the want to just do the damn thing, I can understand. But I think a lot of it, like a lot of the pitfalls for this book could have been solved with a really good editor. I don't know the editor. I don't know if it was edited. I'm just saying it could have used a really seasoned editor. That's all I'm saying. Because there were so many things that were misspelled, so many sentence structure issues, and so much repetition. The 5 things that were repetitive in this book, the most, his blue eyes. Blue eyes. That's this man's main descriptor. blue eyes, and his whiskey breath. Whiskey breath. What the fuck is a whiskey breath? Somebody please explain this to me, because I don't understand. And do we really need to know that every 5 to 6 business days while we're reading it? No. The answer is no. We don't. It's not necessary. Stop it with the whiskey. I started reading The Predator. I started reading The Predator, which is the second book, and it's still happening. It's still happening with the blue eyes, the intense blue eyes, and the whiskey breath. I was just like, oh my God, with the whiskey breath. And then Moriana, I'm mispronouncing her name on purpose. Moriana would straighten her backbone, or like her spine. She would her spine would straighten or like tense up and all of this. It was always her spine. And if it wasn't her spine, she was gritting her teeth. And I'm just like, this woman's got to have like severe dental issues and back pain, period. Like, it's just a given. But it's so prevalent throughout the entire book that it becomes annoying. Like, I don't know if every reader's this way. Hi, Michaela. English literature, I'm hoping to go into editing. This book sounds like it may dry. Oh, yes, it will. It will. It will. A lot. But like, it's so frustrating to me as a reader when I sit down to actually read something, and then the next thing I know, it's the same thing that I read previous, and then the same thing I read previous to that. So it's kind of like it starts to stick out. After a while, I actually started going through here and just highlighting every single time that was said or something was said. And it was just like, it was so frustrating. I'm trying to find one of the examples right now. Like, it's just that, and this girl has a serious thing with knives. Like, there's a knife everywhere. And I do mean everywhere. Like, but there's always like his eyes, his whiskey breath. And I'm just like, will you please stop with the eyes and the whiskey breath and all of that? Just like, please, for the love of all that is holy in Christendom, can we do something without the breath and the eyes? It just, I don't like repetition. I really don't. Like, it throws me out of the story, and probably should have read it before the Ravenhood trilogy. Yes, you should have. I was trying to keep ahead on stuff. That's why I read this, and then I jumped into the Ravenhood. Where is it? I really should have marked a better place with my tabbies. But I mean, they have freaking, like, they have sex almost everywhere. Like, I will say this, that like they got inventive. So the first smexy scene you will come across is Moriana and Tristan Caine in the bathroom to the restaurant that belongs to her father. And it's in their, well, I think it's actually in the middle. No, it is in their territory. So it belongs to the Vitalios. It's kind of Shadowport-esque, but they allow the Tenebra crew to kind of come in as long as they don't fuck around and find out. So they're there. Dante and Tristan and their entourage are there. And Tristan and Moriana end up in the bathroom, the ladies' room. And all I can say is, like, it smacks you in the face. It hits hard. It's just like, but that's all I'm gonna say. It's just, it smacks. But the whole time they're in there doing that, the whole time they're in there having their smexy time, her father's man, his like goon, is outside the door, beating on the bathroom door, being like, your dad said to come out, get the fuck out here. Then her dad starts knocking, and he just kind of looks over his shoulder at the door, turns around and looks at her, and then just rails her, just completely pins her to the freaking like counter and just goes at it, which, not gonna lie, it's a good point. Kalina! Hello, Kalina. I was just talking about like some of the stuff that was irritating in the books. It's just, I don't like repetition. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I 110% cannot do the repetition of things. Like I just need something to, like, the whiskey breath, the blue eyes, and the animalistic nature. Like, she constantly describes this man as, you know, anything but a man. But she describes him also as like a, what is it? Like a jungle cat. Why? Like, it, can we like not do that? Because it's very, very disturbing. But I will say, like, the banter in this book is really good. The banter between Tristan and Moriana is, if you like that sexy, witty back and forth, like he smacks it into her court and she smacks it right back. Yeah, that she did very well. He is her Puss in Boots. Oh my god. Like, they like the smexy scenes in here. I will say this, they are very good. So she can write those scenes and write them to the point where, like, it keeps your attention for a while. You know, you want to kind of just hang out for a while. But yeah, okay. His blue eyes locking with her. What is it? Like, that happens again with the repetition. Throughout this book, they are literally doing this. Constantly. Just this. Staring at each other. How fucking awkward is this? Like, come on. There is nobody anywhere ever that sees a person that they like, that they've already had sex with, that they already have like romantic, witty banter with, that has literally touched every single square inch of their body, that barely speaks, but they just stare at each other. It's like, okay, there is no sci-fi, there's no fantasy, there's nothing to this. It's a dark mafia romance. Well, she termed it a dark contemporary mafia romance. So, but there's nothing. She's just staring. So the basic issue with the book is it's told from Moriana's perspective. She goes to the Tenebra Outfits compound, basically, to find Tristan because she believes that he paid her ex-boyfriend, Jackson. We don't like Jackson. Jackson's an asshole. Jackson basically hit it and quit it. And I don't like Jackson. He's kind of a dick. But he made her believe that Tristan Caine had hired him to have her create some codes. This is another thing that I took issue with this book. When you are talking about something that is integral to your plot, you have to give detail of it. You can't just say these codes, they're dangerous. They could take down both of our organizations. Okay, how? How? Explain how. Like, you can't just say that a code will do this, this, and this. Like, it just, she literally only ever says that they could take it, the codes could destroy both of their families, essentially. That's it. Not a description on how, where it would be executed, how you'd have to execute it, nothing. No details or specifics on the codes themselves. And it drives me crazy because they're so important that this girl literally goes through fucking everything to get them back. But we don't get any specifics on them. It's a key plot point and we get no specifics. It's so frustrating. And it took away from her character building because Moriana is meant to be this genius. She termed her a computer genius extraordinaire. So never mentions her going to college anywhere. She's good with computers. So Moriana creates these codes. Jackson steals them and makes her believe that Tristan Caine took them. So she goes to find Tristan to get the codes back because the codes were created on a dare, and she was betrayed, and she wants to destroy them before they can do any harm to her family or to anybody else. She gets there, and Tristan doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. And I will say the intro to those two meeting was it was very Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You know, like when they're on the dance floor and she's got like the knife in her little like leg holster and he like throws it and stuff. It's very much that. It's very much that type of scenario. She sneaks up behind him, holds a knife to his back and to his neck, and he's like just calm and cool and all like, you know, John Wick about it and just being like, I don't know what you're doing here. What do you want? And then he like shoves her against a wall and starts to like interrogate her. And then he finds out who she really is. When she tells him her name, he moves off of her, hands off, totally like don't touchy, no touchy. This man would literally do anything than physically touch this woman. After that, he's hands off up until the bathroom scene. But apparently Tristan and Moriana have history. Moriana doesn't know this, but Tristan kind of like throws it at her in kind of a shitty way because he's like, you and I have history. You owe me your life. Your life belongs to me because I'm helping you get out of here now, but you owed me a life debt before we ever met. Your life is mine. Your death is mine. Nobody else can kill you but me. And I was like, okay, that's romantic to have. I mean, he protects her ad nauseum infinitum. He does protect her. And she's constantly like, well, why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? And he won't tell her. Like, he's just like not telling her. So the code thing progresses. Jackson gets murdered. Another thing. I don't know. I could be wrong. I live in the country. Eagles. Do eagles just randomly fly around construction sites? Like actual eagles? Because instead of pigeons, crows, ravens, seagulls, any other bird, she chose eagles. And I'm just sitting here going, it's the middle of the city. You mean to tell me that they're just eagles flying willy-nilly in the air? Where'd they come from? Because that's a very specific bird with very specific habitat needs. So that was kind of strange reading it. I mean, that was one of the things that kind of confused me a lot. The back and forth between her and Tristan, like him giving her shit and she giving it right back, it's really good. It's very well written. The interactions between them they keep you interested. They like literally pull you in. The interactions that Moriana has with other characters like Dante Moroni and Amara, we don't ever get Amara's last name, which is awesome. Love meeting characters and not getting last names. Never annoying at all to have a character that is integral to the story and you don't know her fucking last name. Just saying. Oh, it's back. So everything turns out that, you know, they can't find the codes, can't get the codes back. But then they start finding out that there's somebody that, like, Dante and Tristan want to know who set them up, essentially. They want to know who's trying to start a war in between the two sides by framing Tristan. Tristan is a member of the Tenebra outfit. He's one of the highest ranking members, and it's kind of slightly whispered that he's going to take over when the big guy dies, because Dante just doesn't have the cojones to run it the way it needs to be run, which is not insulting to your son at all. pretty much just like me talking about, like, the smexy scenes are good, the banter is good, and like the repetition of the whiskey breath, the blue eyes, the steeled spine, and them staring at each other. Because this is what they do. That's all they do. They just stare at each other. And somehow there's a shit ton of dialogue that happens. It's not on the page, but it happens while they're doing this. Half of the love story happens right here. I'm sorry. I told you guys we were going to be brutally honest this year, and I kept my word. So the codes cannot be found. They're trying to find out who's framing Tristan. I will say this: the man is fucking hot. Like, I am sorry. Like, he wears suits that are just like perfectly fitting. He's he's like a younger John Wick, essentially. He's like a younger John Wick. He rides a motorcycle. He can, like, the motorcycle chase in this book. Oh my God. I have never wanted to have somebody ride a motorcycle behind me, or never wanted to ride a motorcycle more in my life. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of biker boys looking for backpacks on Instagram, but I'm not necessarily that brave. Like, I like the idea, but I'd rather be in front than in back. Because I've seen girls fall off the back of them fucking crotch rockets, and I do not need my punani eating asphalt, okay? I don't know how they managed to talk girls into riding on the back of those crotch rockets. No offense, gentlemen, but come on. Can we maybe figure out a way of keeping them from sliding off? That's all I'm saying. Nobody likes road burn on the kitty. That's all I'm saying. So, statue blank face with no tonal inflection. Yes. No tonal inflection at all. Just this. It's fun. You just got to be careful. Yeah, this woman is the biker backpack terms and conditions. JL, can I show that comment? Because I want to show that comment, but if you don't want me to, I won't. But yes, on the biker boys on Instagram, I started following a lot of the biker boys on Instagram when they started coming after the book talk girlies, but also because of this book. And somebody asked me to write terms and conditions for the biker boys dealing with the book talk girls. So I did. And then later, someone asked me to write trigger warnings, and I did. So there are rules and regulations and warnings for all biker men to, if you want to adopt your own book talk backpack, you have to, fill out the proper forms and then go see Sarah Peterson for approval. I don't think Sarah's aware that I nominated her as the liaison, but you're welcome, Sarah. So there's a few things that happen that are kind of key love moments in the book. So the first one is, it's prior to the smexy scene and the smexy throwdown in the bathroom. Moriana is out with her dad, and he's got his cronies sitting around him, but this handsy motherfucker sitting next to her, and he keeps like groping her leg, and she's just like knocking his arm off, knocking his hand back, and then like looking at him like, do you want to keep that hand? Love it. And dude does not take the hint. So like at like legit, she finally just gives up. She grabs his hand, throws it, stands up, makes a scene, then walks off to the bathroom. Like she wrenches his wrist, almost breaks his wrist, because she warns him not to do it. You need to write one for bouncers, hackers, bartenders, cowboys, and hockey players. I told Lee from Instagram, I said, eventually we're just gonna be writing an entire book talk terms and conditions, like handbook a book talk handbook. So any of the other gentlemen or ladies that want to adopt a book talk boy or a book talk girl, they'll know the rules. But so she almost breaks this dude's hand. She goes in, she has her smexy time with Tristan, comes back out, and it's time to leave. Dude takes her hand and kisses it, and she like wipes it off, and he gets in her face, and she smacks him. And her dad's like, Mariana. Halfway across the restaurant, Tristan's like, he did not just fucking hit her. Like just fucking eye twitching. He was not happy with that at all. But I will say this, there is a lot of text messaging and stuff like that in between them in this book. And it's it's so good. It sounds natural. It sounds like a couple bickering between each other. Like it, where is that? There's one really good one. Try to find it. He says, meet me in the parking lot in 5 minutes. She's like, planning to make me go somewhere, Mr. Caine. On the contrary, I'm planning to make you come somewhere, Miss Vitalio. 5 minutes. If you're scared of what, come and see for yourself. Like, there's just like this cat and mouse kind of play. It's nice. And then she says, you use come a lot. You know that? He said, women are usually grateful in all sorts of ways. Which, I mean, if this man was tapping it, you would be. So that's one of the very first scenes. So he tells her, the next time, break his arm. Don't just twist it, break it. He is not happy with that. They get home, her and her dad get home, and her dad, this is her dad, Gabriel Vitalio, the Viper. I fucking hate this man. I mean, this is the character that out of all the characters, I want to shove his face into a pile of burning coals. I hate this man. This man is a grade A asshole. His wife didn't want to be married to him anymore, and he made her sign off custody of Mariana before he allowed her to get the divorce and leave. Can you believe that? Yeah, you can go, but you're not taking my heir. You'll see why that pisses me off. So, second moment is when they get home. It's ambiguous at best, but in my personal opinion, I don't think her dad it says that her dad lets her fall down the stairs. And we're not talking about 3 or 4. We're talking about flights of stairs. Like there's a flight of stairs, a landing, another flight of stairs. She rolls down all of them and lands on the marble floor because for some odd reason, mafiosas always have marble floors. It's like, rich mahogany, Corinthian leather, and marble floors. What is this? It's like the fucking X-Men mansion. But she lands, she is bruised and beat. Fuck. Never mind the fact that her dad also hits her in the face. Which also not very okay with. So that happens, and she goes out, gets in her car. Her car, Mariana's car, is fucking gorgeous. It is a bright cherry red Mustang, and she knows how to drive it. It's gorgeous. That is her pride and joy. And then later on, it gets exploded by her dad. Yay! She shows up at Tristan's apartment, and Dante, who is he's the heir apparent, he's the son of the Moroni clan. So he's technically the one in line, but they're saying Tristan's going to supersede him. And Tristan and him are best friends. How did they become best friends? Well, they became best friends because as children, they were forced to fight each other. And Dante was a little bit of a dick. So Tristan made him eat his teeth. Yeah. You want tension? There you go. So after that interaction, he's drugged before the Moroni guy, and he's like, do I need to put a collar on you, or can you learn to control yourself? And my favorite line in the entire book, Tristan says at that moment, he says, try to put a collar on me and I'll fucking strangle you with it. Like, I love that. He's like 10 years old when this happens. 10 years old. And he literally walks up to one of the biggest mob bosses there is in this world that has been built and tells him, you try to put a fucking collar on me and I'll fucking strangle you with it. I was just like, yes. So him and Dante became good friends after that. Because apparently Dante doesn't like his dad either. But when I say the guy's name is Lorenzo Bloodhound Moroni, when I say Lorenzo is 20 times better than the Viper, I'm getting to why you'll think the same way. So she shows up back at the apartment. He has a room prepared for her. He warms up a bath for her. He takes care of her. And then when her dad shows up with some of his goons to try to reclaim his daughter, Tristan says, nah, I'm going to just kick your fucking ass instead. And he does. He literally walks up and punches her dad right in the face, breaking his nose. I mean, could you not love a man based on that? That would be my heart, signed, sealed, and delivered. You beat the fuck out of my father. Let's get married. She's not that easy. But Mariana starts living with Tristan because it's the only place that she's safe. And then some things happen, and she goes to the only place that she knows to go, which is a graveyard. It was one of her favorite places, which, I mean, no shade or shame, but it's a graveyard near the airport, which I was kind of like, it's convenient location if the plane doesn't make it off the ground, but yeah, that's just kind of weird. I've never seen a graveyard near an airport, but she lays there on the tombs, like feeling the gusts of air coming off the planes as they take off, which is, personally, I think she's getting high off of the jet fuel, but that's not me. I mean, that's not what the author says. But her dad calls her. They have this horrible fight. She calls Amara. Amara is somebody you meet early on in the book. She is a very close friend of Dante and Tristan's. She's kind of like, if you want to liken Tristan, Dante, and Amara to anything, Tristan would be Rhysand. Dante would be Cassian because he's kind of a bulky guy. His nickname is the Wall. And then Amara would be Moore. She'd be Morgan because she knows everything. She knows where all the bodies are buried. Like, she's not in the family, but she's protected. Because when she was younger, because she knows Dante and the Moronis so well, because her mother used to work for them. So when she was younger, somebody snatched her up, took her to a warehouse, and tortured her for days. And then Tristan and Dante showed up, and then they killed everybody. So now Amara doesn't get touched because they know if you touch Amara, you're going to get Tristan and Dante. I mean, Dante he's like the mob boss's son that doesn't really want to take over the family business, but it's like the thing that's assumed that he's going to do. It's like, this is what you've been building your entire life towards. You have no other future. You have no other options of future. This is it. You have to take over. I don't think he's really got the balls, and I don't think he's really got the interest in it. One, because he's in love with Amara, and he can't marry her if he takes over the family business. There's a problem. Oh, another tidbit you should know. Tristan's apartment is gloriously beautiful. It has walls of glass that are just like there's a wall of glass here that hits another panel that's right kind of like a corner piece of the kitchen, but you can see nothing but the city and the ocean. You hear about this view so much in this book that it's to the point where you're like, just fucking show me. Show me where this is. I need to see it now. You've said it so many times. I need to see this view of legend. Show me the view. It's so, like, I get it. It's pretty, but can we let some shit go, please? Like, we don't need to focus on the view for 4 pages. 4 pages on a view. Come on. We can do better than that. So that happens. Her dad sends people to kill her. She kills them by blowing up, after they've blown up her car. He shows up looking for her and can't find her right off the bat. Tristan shows up looking for her, can't find her. He actually went back to her dad's house, like walked up in this man's house. One of the biggest mafiosos there is walks up to this man in his own house, surrounded by his own men, and beats the fuck out of him. And then walks out because she's not there. And then goes to find her. And like sees her car burnt and like touches it and it's hot and it burns him. It's pouring down rain, by the way. The aesthetic is, it's there. So they have this big standoff in the rain. He's got a gun under her chin. She's got a gun. She drops it. And then he lowers his gun and they just like hardcore make out in the rain, which is just like enough to make your legs twitch. Just like, oh, so hot. So the big secret, dun dun dun. Again, if you have not read the book and you don't want to know this, scurry, because it's about to be laid bare. So the big woo out of this book, that is the reason I rated it a 5 instead of a 3.5, is that the reason why Tristan Caine says that Moriana's life belongs to him, her death belongs to him, she belongs to him, is because one of the things that happened a long time before Tristan and Moriana even existed, well, they existed, but they were children, were 20 young women, 20 young girls, like girls is the term they use. So probably around the ages of like infant to 10 years old, maybe, go missing, and nobody knows why. One of the children that go missing is Tristan's baby sister. And the way he describes his baby sister and the relationship that he has with his baby sister is, it is the sweetest, most heart-wrenching, beautiful thing ever. The way he loved his little sister. I'm looking for her name right now because I know I wrote it down. Because I wrote down all of the characters. Where is it? Luna Evelyn Caine. That's his little sister's name. So she gets disappeared as a baby. Moriana was one of the children that was taken and returned. She was the only child that was returned. So Tristan's dad, David, I believe is his name. Let me double check that. Yep, David Caine is the bodyguard for Lorenzo Moroni. They have called the Vitalios in to interrogate them because they want to know, how did you get your daughter back, but his is still missing? And there's a lot of coded stuff talked about with the treaty between them, no more mob wars, you handle your business, I handle my business, and there's no beef in between. And Tristan's dad loses his fucking mind and threatens Gabriel. Technically, Tristan's dad threatens Gabriel through threatening Moriana, who is a baby sitting on the table. He holds a gun to the baby's head. He's trying to find out about his daughter. Not that that justifies holding a gun to a baby's head, but I mean, that's what's happening. Tristan is seeing all this happen. He doesn't like Vitalio, but he's trying to figure out, like, there's this whole monologue that happens as Amara is telling Moriana the story. You hear Tristan, speaking as himself, like, why is dad behaving this way? Why is he's got to be holding the gun to the baby's head to protect her. Like, he's got his gun out to protect her. He would never hurt the baby. He would never do that. And he finds a gun that one of the other cronies has left laying around, and he knows how to shoot a gun because his dad taught him. So he picks up the gun and starts making his way around from behind Moroni and sees his dad pointing the gun at the baby and just keeps thinking, put the gun down, Dad. Put the gun down, Dad. Don't do this. Put the gun down. Put the gun down. And it's very clear. Dad's going to pull that trigger. He wants his daughter back. He doesn't care what he's got to do to make that happen. So, knee-jerk reaction. Tristan lifts the gun and fires and kills his father to protect Moriana. That's why Moriana's life belongs to Tristan. Because he killed his father to protect her. And to make it worse, Tristan's mom was the housekeeper for the Moronis, and she hears the kerfuffle and comes in to see what's going on and finds her husband dead. And when she asks who did it, they say, your son. She looks at him, says, you're dead to me, essentially, and then leaves. So you can kind of understand why Tristan's not necessarily the most normal, rational, talkative person. You kind of killed your dad. So in a way, like, the best way I could describe this book, like if I was trying to term it as something, instead of calling it a dark mafia contemporary romance, I would term it as like a Romeo and Juliet story with elements of John Wick. It's like if Romeo and Juliet were meshed with John Wick. It's a John Wick Romeo and Juliet, essentially, because Tristan Caine is very close to the John Wick character, kind of like, it's not plagiarism or anything like that, but it's the type of character. It's very close to that type of character. So the vibe is there. But it's repetitious in parts. There are parts where it doesn't quite make sense. The code thing never gets explained. There's a scene where she goes to confront Tristan about some information that she found out that, basically his sister was one of the kids, that she was one of the kids that went missing. And he's in the back of this casino, and she gets in there, and there's a table of people sitting there, and they're playing a game with, it's kind of like a weird game of like Simon Says, but with bullets. So essentially, if you're sitting at the table, there's a gun in the middle of the table. The gun has bullets in it. Any person can shove that gun, or they take the gun, and while they have the gun, they can point it at another person sitting at the table, and that person has two choices. They can answer what question that person is asking, or they can get shot. That's kind of the rules. You answer the question or you get shot. So at one point, when Moriana is sitting at that table in front of Tristan, they're playing a game of chicken. Well, she's asking him questions and he's asking her questions. And then finally, like, she refuses to answer something, or answers it wrong, or takes too long or something. So she understands that, like, This is it. Something bad's about to happen. And he shoots her in the arm. I mean, technically he did shoot her, and that's what he says. When somebody objects to that kind of like loophole, they're like, well, he's like, I shot her. She's bleeding. It counts. Then then he takes her home and yells at her and then pins her to the wall in the bath or in the shower and fucks her 5 different shades up out of her mind. The boy can throw down. The boy can throw down. So, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. The ending is left very ambiguous. Tristan and Moriana, after their kiss and realization that they, have feelings for each other, that there's a lot more tying them together than, all of the pain and things like that in the past, that they, have something for each other. They want to be together and that sort of thing. They're going to make shit work. So they get in the SUV that he drove and leave. That's how the book ends. They get in the car and they start driving. And it leads into that in the beginning of The Reaper. But, I mean, overall, the characters were well developed. They had their own intonations, own like little inflections, their own key elements and descriptions. Like Amara wears a scarf constantly because when she was abducted, they cut her throat and it severed some of her vocal cords or something. So her voice is really breathy like this. Like she's really trying hard to talk. So there's, different aspects to each character. I just wish that the repetition of things like the view, the things about people stealing their back or gritting their teeth, or the blue eyes or the whiskey breath, I wish those things had been like kept to a minimum. Like find other descriptors. I mean, do I mind that she's constantly looking at him? No, he's a handsome man. You're going to stare at him. But do you need to stare at him every 5 to 2 business days? No. There were parts in this book when she was staring at him and I was like, will you just freaking get down to it already? Like, we know you want to fuck him. We know you do. Just do it. It's just like about to turn into freaking Palpatine. But I mean, overall, the character of Tristan Caine he's probably one of my favorite book boyfriends, if I had to be honest, because he has that dangerous, cocky, melodramatic at times, but confident and brutal, but principled. He protects women without a fault. The people that he cares about, he protects without a fault. And it's really interesting to see them, going back and forth, at each other, and then, seeing him protect her, getting in between her and a big SUV on his motorcycle and shooting the freaking SUV. Like it's beautiful. It really is. The relationship is beautiful. The way it develops is really interesting because of the play on words and because of the development that happens and pays off at the end with the revelation of, the kids that are missing and that Moriana was one of them, that they still haven't found and they still don't know what happened to the other girls, which is this big mystery. Like that was one of the things that kind of towards the end of the book kept me wondering, like, what's going on here? Like, you've got so many things going on. You have the code thing. You have the fighting in between Moriana and her dad. You have the shady shit that her dad's doing that doesn't get explained. You have the stuff going on in the Moroni camp. You have the Tristan being set up. You have the relationship between her and Tristan. You have people trying to kill Moriana. And then you have this big revelation that there are children that have been missing for decades of time and nobody knows why or where they went. There's so much that happens at the tail end that you kind of like the payoff at the end of the book really kind of makes you stop worrying about the codes and the being framed and everything else. It's kind of like those were minor plot points in the book, and the big plot point, the thing you're actually reading towards, is the revelation about his sister and how Moriana plays into it. But I mean, like I said, for the most part, I enjoyed the book. It was, like I said, the repetition is pretty much the one thing that was my biggest gripe. It was beyond frustrating to read the same descriptors over and over and over and over and over again. The book is good. There's a plot here. There's a good flow to it. It needs an editor. Like this current copy, as I hold it, it needs a good editor. It needs to have somebody go through it, pick it apart, and piece it back together. Then there needs to be more detail given to some of the other characters, some of the relationships between the characters. And like, if you're going to use the codes and the framing of Tristan as part of your plot, you have to give detail. You have to give detail about what the codes are, how they work, what would happen if they were used. You can't just like ambiguously talk about these things that could end, everything and cause a mob war, which is a big deal. You kind of can't do that. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you guys read it? Would you not read it? Like, does Tristan Caine kind of float your boat? Or do you think he's just like, meh? I'm sorry, I just droned on for the longest time. What do you guys think? I'm going to be quiet. I don't know if anybody's even still here. I keep seeing people pop in and pop out. I don't know if that's because of bad connection or because StreamYard's being a butt again. Can I get a sound off? Who's still here? Because in about 3 minutes, I'm going to end the stream. Because I've talked pretty much about everything. Like, I will say the one thing that is touched on a lot in the book, kind of here and there, is Tristan's mental health, which is interesting because you don't normally get people paying attention to the mentality of certain characters, specifically ones that are very violent. But I mean, they're always like the ones that are very like they're morally gray. Hi, Square. The characters that are like morally gray are the ones that generally get kind of like painted as, oh, you're a sociopath or you're a narcissist or something like that. But Tristan's a little bit more complex than that. Like, there's grief, there's a sense of, a brokenness because what happened to him at a very young age. And then there's this odd responsibility that he feels for Moriana because he sacrificed something so valuable and that he loved so much to protect her. And he did like a noble thing, but it cost him, and it really fucked him in the head. But he's still very principled. He knows right from wrong. So he's not psychotic. He's not a sociopath. He's not anything like that. He's very purposeful. He's very aware of what he's doing. It is interesting. Sadie Kincaid Mafia, Rex on my TBR. Like, Runyx is a really good, fairly popular author. Like I said, I started reading The Reaper, and it's dealing with, so all of the books, like I said, there are 6 books. So book 1, The Predator, deals with Tristan Caine and Moriana. The other books are broke down into, every book deals with a couple. So the first 2 books, The Predator and The Reaper, deal with Tristan and Moriana. The other 6. 6 hasn't been released yet, though. It's still in the works or something. So the first 2 books deal with Tristan and Moriana, the characters from The Predator. The second one the third one, The Emperor, deals with Dante and Amara, which are characters from this book. Hi, Kalina. Here-ish. I know, I'm sorry. I'm droning. I'm wrapping it up. The finisher is a completely different couple. It's Alpha and Zephyr. Don't know who they are. Then there's the Annihilator, which is book 5, and it deals with Shadow Man and Lila. The character's name is Shadow Man. The Syndicator, which is book 6, which has not been released, is a culmination of all the couples in one book. So you're learning the little, like the threads that bind all of these characters and all of these stories together. And then in book 6, whenever she decides to release it, it ties everything together. So you get everything together. And book 6 has got to be thicker than a Snicker. Like, it's, as JL would like to say, thicker than a Snicker. But I mean, The Predator is a pretty good sized book. It's 303 pages. Right now it is sitting at a 4.0 on Goodreads. So fairly popular book. Multitasking, but it sounds interesting, especially your Romeo and Juliet John Wick comparison. It is very much like Romeo and Juliet John Wick. Like, don't get me wrong, like Mariana can take care of herself to a certain degree, but like ultimately her man takes care of her a lot, and it's really kind of like the bike riding though. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I made friends with a biker boy. His name's Jake. He goes by Dark Ninja on Instagram. Go say hi. Very nice Australian boy. He actually let me use some of the images from his Instagram in the collage that I made for the posts on TikTok and on Instagram. So thank you, Jake. But I will make sure to link her website in the description of the video after it's been uploaded. And that way, if you guys want to sign up for the newsletter and get the exclusive like little tidbits that go along with each book, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to read the snippets about the books and everything and see if you find something that you like and you want to continue trying to give it a shot. I'm going to continue to read and finish the thing, but my next read is going to be Shadow and Bone. I need a break from the contemporary. I need some fantasy. Super excited to go over the Ravenhood trilogy. I have not finished book 3. I've not begun the finish line. I have finished Exodus. I have not finished the finish line or One Last Rainy Day. I have got to, like, I love the books that I've been reading. Particularly, I just finished an arc by Christopher M. Tantillo. We've had him on the show before. He said he's going to come back, and he's a show favorite. He's also a very good person and a very talented, brilliant writer. But I just finished his arc day before yesterday, and she's different. I'll say that much. She's different. I can't say anything else than that because it's an arc and it's not going to be released until May 21st. So go pre-order because I have. You can find the links in his bio. But I have the night I spent with Aubrey Fisher sitting up there. That's my most current pride and joy. She actually came untouched and unsoiled by Amazon. Freaking, like, she was perfect out of the box, and she's a first edition. So I was just like very happy about that. At some point, I am going to reread that. I don't know if I can entice Chris to come back on and talk more about Aubrey, but like, there's always more to talk about with Aubrey Fisher. But like, at some point, I do want to reread it because JL was right. It's a really good freaking book. Like, if you guys have not read that, go read it. Trust me, it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, Runyx is one of the authors that I not only have her dark verse, but I have her Gothicana, which is like a it's like a dark academia, but look at the sprayed edges. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I think there might be something on the front if I open it. Take the cover off. There is. It's just like Nevermore. Oh, Nevermore. It's a beautiful book. I found it at Walmart. It was the last one on the shelf, and I was like, "You're coming home with me." So I also have her Gothicana, which I'm looking forward to reading because I've seen quite a few people read it and review it, and it's got a lot of mixed reviews. Kind of sort of like these. Like these are her most popular books. Like the dark verse is what she's kind of known for. But Gothicana is something I want to try. It'd be my first dark academia book. But I've seen some good reviews and I've seen some very not good reviews where people are just like, this is gross. This is old. I don't like this. Make it go away. And I'm just like, okay, we're going to give it a chance. We're going to give it a chance. Shadow and Bone is amazing. Don't tell me anything. Don't spoil it. I swear. Anybody, I'm going to say this right here and now. Anybody spoils, like, if you spoil a book I'm reading, I will find you. Don't do that to me. I went through the trouble of saying spoilers included here. Yes, I do love the sprayed edges. They're like a nice little detail. I love the engraving on books too, like the front covers. Beautiful. Yes, I've seen your sprayed edge editions. I'm jealous. They're beautiful. Don't spoil them. I've watched 2 episodes of the show and I loved it, but I had to cancel my Netflix. So at some point, I just want to finish the book series and then maybe I'll watch the episodes and do shows over that as a comparison. But yeah, highly recommend you guys give The Predator a shot. Go meet Tristan on your own and just be aware that you're going to hear a lot. Yeah, LitJoy, they're fucking expensive. Unless LitJoy starts sponsoring me, there's no way I'm getting those. Not in this lifetime. But highly recommend you guys go check out the Dark Verse. Just be aware that there is going to be a lot of blue eyes and a lot of whiskey voice. Just be aware. At times, it's going to, I don't know if it will for everybody, but it really pissed me off. So, I mean, but overall, like I said, if I was rating the book overall, it's a 5. If I was rating the book on just the first part before you hit the payoff, it would be a 3.5. So it's still not that bad. It's still about a median grade. So 3.5 to 5 is what my rating would be on The Predator. So I'd still suggest it. I'd still read it again. Luckily, their book box is a subscription every 3 months. I'm so poor. I'm so poor. There's no way I could do that. I wish I could. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to. Maybe if I finish my own novel and get it published, which at some point in the near future, I plan on doing 2 things on the show. I plan on doing interim episodes with any of the indie authors that I can find that want to come on and pitch their books and discuss their books. I also want to do regular writing episodes where I can get some writers and some authors on to discuss their methods of writing, their ideas and things like that. And then I also have an idea for like a little fun, it's not necessarily a game, but it's just a little fun thing that deals with writing prompts. So trying to put all that together and get those scheduled and everything. So we'll see what happens. I've still got an open book that I got to fill. So I'm going to be reaching out to some people starting Monday to see what I can come up with. But thank you to everybody that came and hung out. Thank you to Michaela and JL and Kalina and Square. Thank you all for coming and keeping me company and participating. I know I'm sorry I probably droned on too much. I'm sorry. Have random writing. I love using like writing prompts on Pinterest. Like I'll look at one and then I'll type in stuff on Pinterest. I won't like start writing with it because it kind of like, I know I'll get too involved if I do. So I just kind of like write a little thing on Pinterest. It's just like, it gets the juices going. So it is good. But that's the Predator, guys. The next book I will be covering kind of towards the end of March will be the very first book in the Ravenhood series, which will be Flock. So keep your eye out for that. So, but I'm going to wrap this up, and I will see you guys on TikTok. Thank you all again for coming and keeping me company. And as always,